I'm in my late 20s and have been married for 2 years to the woman I once believed I would spend the rest of my life with. That belief shattered a few months ago. A couple of weeks before everything fell apart, I had to leave town for a weekend due to work, leaving my wife home alone. While I was gone, she invited some friends over for a party. From what I've pieced together, drinking quickly turned into something more, and substances were involved. One of the male friends ended up staying the night, and according to her, they slept together. She claims she doesn't remember much of it, just enough to know what happened. I didn't hear about this from her. Instead, her best friend was the one who broke the news to me nearly 3 weeks later, saying the guilt had been eating her alive. My wife had confessed to her the morning after, but begged her to keep it a secret. That trust eventually crumbled, and when her best friend couldn't hold on to the lie anymore, she told me everything. The moment I found out, I confronted my wife. At first, she denied it outright, gaslighting me, acting as if I was crazy for even questioning her. Nothing happened. Don't you trust me? We just shared a bed. But I knew better. The details didn't add up, and the more I pressed, the more her story started shifting. Eventually, when she realized I wasn't going to accept her half-truths, she admitted to everything. She cried, apologized over and over, blamed the alcohol, the substances, the situation, anything except herself. She swore it wasn't intentional, that it wouldn't have happened if she had been sober, as if that somehow excused the betrayal. But even if that were true, it didn't matter. Nothing could change the fact that she had disrespected our marriage, lied to me repeatedly, and let another man into our bed. Now, I'm in the process of filing for divorce. We're still living under the same roof for the time being, which is its own private hell, but I'm doing everything I can to move forward as quickly as possible. The way she speaks to me now, pleading, apologizing, trying to convince me to stay, feels eerily familiar. It's the same tone she used whenever she tried to explain away past issues, the same way she always managed to shift the blame just enough to avoid truly owning her mistakes. It's exhausting. Today, we were talking about the logistics of the divorce, just the practicalities, nothing emotional. Then, out of nowhere, she broke down in tears. She asked how I could give up on us so easily, how I could walk away over something so small. She made it sound as if our marriage was just collateral damage in an unfortunate accident, rather than the result of her choices. And for a fleeting moment, I almost felt guilty. Almost. But then she kept talking, making it clearer than ever that she wasn't truly sorry for what she did. She was only sorry for what it cost her. Sorry that I refused to look past it, refused to be the forgiving, understanding husband she expected me to be. She wasn't mourning the loss of our relationship. She was mourning the fact that I wouldn't sweep her betrayal under the rug and pretend everything was fine. That realization was freeing. It wasn't just about the cheating anymore. It was about how she saw herself, her actions, and me. She wasn't remorseful. She just didn't want to deal with the consequences. And in that moment, I understood that I didn't need to keep explaining my pain to someone who refused to truly acknowledge it. So I told her the truth, plain and simple, that I couldn't do this anymore. That she had disrespected me and our marriage, and that nothing she said could change what had already been done. That she didn't respect me enough to stay faithful, so there was nothing left to discuss. She cried again, of course. But instead of feeling guilt or second-guessing myself, I felt lighter. It was as if, for the first time, I could finally see everything clearly. D-Day was 3 months ago. The divorce is moving forward. And for the first time in a long time, I feel free. I'm in the final stages of this chapter, doing everything I can to move on because the last thing I want is to turn my pain into some kind of personal success story. This isn't about proving anything to anyone. It's about reclaiming my life. I've come to accept that my soon-to-be ex-wife isn't a terrible person. She's not cruel or malicious. She's just someone who made a catastrophic mistake and can't fully accept that she did. Even now, I don't think she truly understands the weight of her choices or the reasons behind them. Instead of facing reality, she's lost in a fantasy, clinging to the man she cheated with, convincing herself that there's something real between them. But I know better. There's nothing real about it. He's a mess, behind on child support, barely holding his life together, drowning in his own problems. And now, she's tangled up in his chaos. They don't share a life, she just drifts in his orbit, avoiding the wreckage of what she left behind. Most of her time is spent at his place, yet there are still moments when reality catches up to her. Moments when she regrets what she did, when she feels the weight of everything she's lost. She's told me as much. But instead of confronting it, she fixates on the idea of what could be, as if running toward uncertainty will somehow fix the damage she's caused. I could sit back and wait for it all to fall apart. And honestly, I think it will. But I don't want to be waiting around for that. I don't want my healing to be tied to the inevitability of her regret. I'm trying to move forward, trying to build a life where this betrayal doesn't define me. And yet, there are nights when I can't help but wonder, why didn't I give her a second chance? If it had been anything else, if we had been broken in any other way, I know I would have fought to fix it. But not this. Not this kind of betrayal. Now, after everything, I've finally put in the work to be better. Not for her, but for myself. And the bitter irony is that she's not even here to see it. It's frustrating. Not because I want her back, not because I'm chasing after her. Never that. I told her plainly, I refuse to let this destroy me. Either she'll realize what she lost, or someone else will see the version of me I wish she had appreciated. Either way, I know I'll be okay. It's just hard. She was my life for so long, and no matter how much I try to push it away, there's still regret. Not regret for leaving, because I know this isn't my fault, but regret that maybe, just maybe, I didn't love her in the ways she needed before everything fell apart. And yet, at the same time, I know it wouldn't have changed anything. She made this choice, and now she has to live with it. She's still struggling. Depression, anxiety, self-doubt, it clings to her, and I think, deep down, a part of her knows this isn't the life she actually wants. But she can't get out of her own way. And I can't save her. Time heals. I know it does. I just have to keep moving forward until I finally feel whole again. Moving on isn't something that just happens on its own. You have to want to move on. And I do. For a long time, I didn't question the way my girlfriend kept in close contact with her ex. He lived a few hours away, and most of their conversations revolved around things back home. Mutual friends, old memories, nothing that seemed out of bounds. I never saw a reason to feel threatened by it, so I let it be. There's also a girl at my workplace. Let's call her A. She's a kind person, and we've been friendly ever since I started working there. I'll admit that when I first met her, I thought she was attractive, but that was as far as it ever went. We never dated, never flirted, never even spent time together outside of work. The only reason I even had her number was for work-related communication. One day, my girlfriend stopped by while I was on break and saw me having lunch with A. It was nothing more than a casual conversation between coworkers, but the moment she saw us talking, she lost it. She was furious for the rest of the day, barely speaking to me except to let me know how upset she was. At first, I was genuinely confused. I had never given her a reason to doubt me, never crossed any lines. So I asked her, why was she allowed to maintain a friendship with someone she had been intimate with in the past, yet the moment I so much as had lunch with a female coworker, it was a problem. She had no real answer, just more anger, more accusations. That moment stuck with me. It felt unfair, hypocritical even, and I was tempted to bring it up again, to call her out on the double standard. But part of me wondered if it was even worth it. Was it better to let it go? When I brought the situation to the internet, the overwhelming response was that she was likely projecting. At the time, I didn't believe it. Like many others in my position, I started to wonder if she was cheating, so I checked her messages. There was nothing incriminating. Their conversations were exactly what she had always claimed, casual, distant, mostly about mutual friends. There were no mentions of meeting up, no flirtation, nothing that set off alarms. He lived 3 hours away, and as far as I could tell, their relationship was nothing more than old history. I took that as proof that the people calling her out were wrong. But they weren't. 2 months later, I found out the truth. She hadn't cheated in the strictest sense, no physical betrayal, but she was keeping guys on the side. She had been talking to multiple men, keeping them interested, feeding them just enough attention to keep them around. It was emotional infidelity, if not outright cheating, and the moment I realized it, everything clicked into place. She had been projecting all along. She assumed I was crossing lines because she was. She was so quick to accuse me because she knew, deep down, that she wasn't being faithful, not in the way a committed partner should be. We broke up. And honestly, I've never been happier. Looking back, I see all the red flags I ignored. Projection is a huge one. When someone is overly suspicious of you for no reason, sometimes it's because they know they wouldn't be able to trust themselves in the same situation. It was a hard lesson, but I learned it. And now, I know what to look out for.